And I
Unemployment, I
don't.
mean.
Yeah, and that's of course in the 3 months to September. I don't think
Yeah.
either of us are particularly pleased that prediction has come true, but there we go. The Bank of England expect unemployment to peak at 5.1%. I would say that's probably an optimistic estimate given the
Mm.
data that we had
Yeah.
this week. I think unemployment obviously runs up to September. If you look at some of the more timely indicators like the PAYE payroll data, employment fell 32,000 in October. That's the biggest 1 month fall since November of 2020. Of course, the big difference between now and November 2020 is we're not in the middle of a pandemic and we
Yeah.
haven't just been locked down. But frankly, none of this is surprising. We've spoken about this at length. The government has increased the cost of hiring by a higher employer national insurance contributions. They've increased the risk associated with hiring because of this new workers' rights bill. They're effectively providing a greater reward not to work with these benefits uplifts that we're
Mm.
seeing. And it's almost certain in just under 2 weeks' time that there's going to be even less of an incentive to work because income tax is going to be going up by a couple of pence in the pound. So, frankly, this is a mess of their own making, even if the Chancellor is running around blaming everyone but herself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone disputes that Labour didn't get a particularly good legacy from the previous government. But all they've done is just made things even worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's it plays well to their base to blame the evil Tories and what have you. But most right thinking, logical thinking people will see that's the nonsense for what it is, and it is nonsense.
Yeah.
You know,
It is complete nonsense. And actually, I think this is what rankles so much is that it would be so much better for the Chancellor or anyone in the government to stand up and say, look, this is our fault. These are the policies we've put in place. We will own up to this. I think, if this was a year ago and you're 5 months into an administration, then yeah, you reasonably can lay some of the blame at the door of the people who came before you. We're 15 months in now. The honeymoon period is over. This is a direct result of the policies that they have implemented and are looking to implement in the coming months. And, we'll move on to the GDP data in a moment, but even that isn't their fault, apparently.
well, it is clear. Well, no, you know why? You know who they're blaming for that, don't you? It's the Jaguar Land Rover shutdown.
Yeah.
But by that same token, now that production's restarted, we should see a massive rebound in GDP growth in Q4, which we all know is unlikely to happen.
Well,
But even if, let's say, for example, let's look at the unemployment rate, for example. Okay, it's gone from 4.4%, which is what it was in July 2024 when they basically took the reins. It's now 5%. In no other country in the G7 has the unemployment rate gone up to the same extent.
yep.
No other country.
Yeah.
Our energy costs, our inflation rate is 3 or 4 times higher than that in France.
Yeah.
And you can't say that France is a particularly, accelerating away at speed when it comes to GDP growth. Their economy is also growing better. Why is that? Because ultimately they haven't imposed 70 billion or however many billion pounds in tax rises, and they don't have sky high energy costs.
Exactly that. It's not rocket science. I know we say that a lot, but it really is not rocket science. And you think on an incentive basis, going back to what we were talking about earlier, where's the incentive for firms to hire workers at this moment in time? And actually, from a worker perspective, a lot of people will be going, where's the incentive for me to work? Because the government will, effectively pay me to sit at home. And just, moving on to the GDP numbers, yes, the economy grew by 0.1% quarter on quarter in Q3, with the economy actually contracting by a tenth on a month-on-month basis in September. And yeah, they're going to blame that on the Jaguar Land Rover shutdown. And yes, that is true. And yes, production fell off a cliff. We all know that. But frankly, even if you take the impact of that out, the economy would have just grown by a tenth of 1% in September. We're arguing about an economy that is, for all intents and purposes, a rounding error away from just completely flatlining. And I zoomed out on the data this morning. In 4 of the last 5 quarters, the economy has grown by less than 0.3%. And in the one quarter when we actually exceeded that pace, it was because the data was horrifically skewed by all the tariff front running that was going on earlier in the year. The long and the short of the matter is that the economy just has not done anything for getting on for a year and a half now.
Yeah. So plague on all their houses, basically.
Well, indeed, indeed.